So last time one problem we have seen was how you can transfer power from one circuit to the other circuit. Okay, so I'll just do something very similar. So think of a AC supply given to a inductance which is having a core, and then there's another inductance, another coil which is connected to a resistance. Okay, the same problem we have seen last time in the last class. So there is some mutual inductance, and then there is a self inductance, something like this. Let's call this L1, L2. So then what is M? M will be K multiplied by square root of L1, L2. Okay, so you know this. So the maximum possible K is 1. That means the mutual inductance will be square root of L1, L2. Whereas the K will be factor of coupling. Which will be something like which is determined by how strongly these two circuits are coupled. Okay, so now what we want to do is think of this as current I1, think of this as current I2, and this is R, and then this is V. Okay, so now if you try to write the equations, okay. So what will be the equations? So Kirchhoff's voltage law for the first loop. Okay. So if I start at this point, so this is plus minus. So from here to here increasing. So I'll get V. Okay, plus V. And there's no drop here. From here to here, there will be EMF induced in the inductor. So that will be what? That will be omega L1, that is the reactance. Omega into L1 is the reactance, and then because of the current I1. Okay, so I'll write it I1 like this. Okay, so I have to put J also. J omega L1 into I1. So this will be plus or minus? It will be minus because that represents a voltage drop. Okay. So that is the EMF induced in the inductance because of current I1. Okay. Now, because of current I2, is there any EMF induced in L1? So, how do you write that? What is the term for that then? So the voltage induced in this inductance because of current I2 flowing in the other coil. So it will be J omega I2 into M. Okay. So J omega M multiplied by I2. Okay. Now again plus or minus. See, I2 current is direction is like this. Okay. I'm leaving the current is leaving the dot. Okay. So what was our convention? Current entering the dot means the next place where there is a dot, that will be positive. Okay. Current leaving the dot, that means this will be negative. EMF will be induced in such a direction that it is minus here and plus here. Okay. So because of that, because of that, since I am using Kirchhoff's voltage law in this direction here, so I'll be using plus sign here, because from minus side I am going to the plus side. Now you right now don't worry too much about the sign, because I can always give the dot here, and then I can connect the circuit in such a way that the dot is the other side, then it doesn't change. Okay, so this is one one equation, and this will be equal to 0. Okay. I will slightly manipulate this equation in such that I want to get a term I1 minus I2. Okay. We will do that later, or shall we do it right away? Let's write the equation for this. So for the second one, okay. So from here, if I start, if I go up, so what will be the voltage drop? So that will be minus j omega L2 I2. Okay. So this is one term. Voltage will be dropping because I am going in the same direction of I2. Okay. And current entering the dot means it gives positive voltage here. Okay. So that means negative voltage. Again I am increasing my voltage. So therefore it is plus j omega m into I1 equal to 0. Okay. So like this I got two equations. Okay. Resistance we forgot. Okay. What is the term for that? Minus I2 R2 equal to 0. Okay. Now forget this circuit. I want to write something like this, an equivalent circuit which looks something like this. Okay. So this is I1, this is I2. Okay. By choosing, so if I write the equations for this circuit, and then if I match the terms, then by some manipulation you can find out that the equation for this also looks very similar. So otherwise let me try to do that as it is here. Okay. So what I want to do is here V minus, let me see. So here it will be I1 minus I2. Okay. So I think I have to let's write here. So here there is no mutual inductance between anything. Okay. So let's call this LA, LB and LC. Okay. Now if I write it here, what happens? V minus j omega I1, j omega LA I1 minus I1 minus I2 j omega LC equal to 0. Okay, I think I'll get something like this. Okay, so if I separate only I1 here, V minus j omega LA j omega plus LC into I1. Is that okay? Minus is there. Okay, and then this will be plus. Minus into minus is plus I2 into. Okay. So I just slightly reorganize the term. I1 I separated, I2 I separated. Now you compare this with this, the first one. So V is same, minus j omega is also same. So in the place of L1 I am getting these two, and in the place of M I am getting LC. Okay, so that's a good news. So now I got at least some idea what LA is there. Okay. What? Yeah, I2 I forgot, sorry. I2. Okay, so now by comparison, in the place of M I am having LC. Okay, So LC is nothing but M actually, and LA is nothing but L1 minus M actually. Okay. So okay, now I got it. So I'll use actual variables. So again repeat. Okay. This one is L1 minus M. This one is M, and this one is L2 minus M, or M minus L2. I don't know. That you have to check it, plus or minus. Now, if you write the equation, you will get the same for these two. Okay. So for this circuit, this is equivalent. The advantage is the core is not there and all the two coils are not there. So this is easier to analyze. So that is just first one observation. You want to try? Let's. If you just write it and expand it, you will get the same thing. Okay, I'll not further explain on that. So let's move forward. I think it's been a long time we are discussing magnetic circuit. So let's start thinking about transformers. Okay, so ideal transformer. Ideal transformer means the one in which there are no losses. Okay, but practical transformer has losses, so that we'll consider later. This one without losses we'll consider now. Okay, so in an ideal transformer, what happens? Okay, so there is this core. So this is like a square shape, but it could be any closed shape. Okay. So this side is primary winding and this side is secondary winding. So the number of turns can be different. So this is N1 turns, this is N2 turns. Okay. Now initially this one is open circuited. Okay. So ideal transformer, and then here no load. No load means secondary open. Okay, the secondary side is open. Okay. Now you have the primary side. Okay. So the question is, because it's ideal, how much of the, like, what happens if I connect like this? Some voltage I'll apply. In that case, what happens? So will there be any current? So there will be some current. Okay. And what will be the phase difference between these two? Phase difference between the voltage and current. Phase angle difference. Yeah, 90 degrees. Why? Because it's a purely inductive. Okay. Will there be any EMF induced in this? How much will that be? Will be exactly equal to V. Whatever V you are applying, the same EMF E will be induced here, and then you will get I. Okay. Will there be any flux in the core? Will there be any flux in the core? Yes. So how much flux? What is the relation between flux and current? These two are current and flux are proportional. Okay, so if the current is sinusoidal, flux will also be sinusoidal. So I think that's it. So will there be any EMF induced here? Will there be any EMF induced in the secondary coil? Yes. How do you know EMF is induced? Okay. So you can always connect a voltmeter to measure how much is the voltage coming. So that will confirm that there is some EMF induced. Okay. So now this current I, let's call this current I phi. Okay. Because this is the current which is creating the flux phi. Okay. Now this phi, I give a notation phi. Okay, I think we'll go with just that flux phi. So this I am calling it V1, E1 and E2. Okay. Now based on this vector diagram, phasor diagram. Okay. So this is V1. Okay. So normally for transformers kind of thing, typically voltage will be taken as a vertical line. Okay. So this is 0 degrees. This is the reference, but voltage is taken slightly vertical. Why it is, you will know shortly. Maybe by the end of this class you will know. Okay. And the reason is very practical. But take the voltage as a vertical line. Okay. Now what is the phasor for the current I phi? So I phi will be like this. Okay. So why it will be like this? It is lagging behind by 90 degrees. Okay. Now, what is the phasor for E1? Same as V1. Again, it will lead by 90 degrees. So, see, what is EMF induced? It is N d phi by dt with a, I think a minus sign will be there somewhere. Okay. So, rate of change of this thing. So, every time you differentiate, you will get 90 degrees back. Okay. So, here, this is E1. Okay. Now, what happens is, in this example, these two are exactly equal length. Okay. So, but it's only a matter of notation. Like, if I am considering this as plus minus, this as plus minus. So, according to this, they will cancel each other, and then net voltage will be 0. Okay. What about E2? So, is the length same? Okay. So, what about E2? So, if N1 is equal to N2, then E2 length also will be same. So, for this example, let's consider a step down transformer. That means the N1 is to N2 maybe 2 is to 1. Okay. So, there are less number of turns on the, if there are 2000 turns here, only 1000 turns here. Okay. In that case, E2 will be half of that of E1. Okay. So, I will write E2 somewhere like this. Okay. So, this is all everything that is there in the ideal transformer under no load conditions. Okay. So, I can also write a flux this also. Okay. Because flux is also sinusoidal quantity, I can represent it as a phasor. Okay. So, I think we have covered everything. So maybe you, at this point you just take a put down this thing in your notes also. So this is phasor diagram for ideal transformer with the secondary open. Okay. Okay, so let's Are you clear up to here? So actually, when I remember when I was learning these transformers and all, especially this part used to be very confusing. How exactly the transformer works and all these things. We were directly given the phasor diagram without proper explanation, so we got a lot of confusion. But anyway, so let's. So I'm trying to avoid that for you. Okay, so let's consider some more points now. Let's say I'm saying ideal transformer, but there's in practically there are some losses, some things are there. So slowly I'll introduce some kind of non-ideal condition. Okay, so this core is there. The core is nothing but some kind of a ferrite material. Okay, which is able to pass through which you are able to pass the flux. Okay, but unlike a DC electromagnet, in which the flux direction is always constant. I mean, if you have a core and then you pass, sorry, you pass DC current, the direction will be north and south all the time. In this case, what is happening? I'm sending the AC. So sometimes the flux is clockwise, then the other time the flux is anti-clockwise. So the material is getting magnetized in one direction and then again magnetized in the other direction. Or the small whatever the dipoles or small atoms or molecules inside that material, they align in one direction and they align in the other direction. Okay, 50 times per second, because the frequency is 50 hertz, for example. So because of that, there will be some kind of internal, some friction kind of thing going on inside that material, because you have a magnetic core, you have AC supply, the magnetic direction keeps changing, it keeps getting disturbed that way. Okay? I think the word for that is magnetostriction. S-T-R-I-C-T-I-O-N, magnetostriction. Okay. So I am using that word after many years. Hopefully, so you search it, you verify whether that word is correct or not. Okay. So because of the magnetostriction, there is some heat. The core will get heated. So you can verify that if you're working with some small transformer in the lab or near the roads. If you have a distribution transformer, if you go near to that and you don't touch it, you can just put your hand near to that. It will be slightly hot. Okay, or even in some of the equipment, if there is any transformer. So that is the result of this one. So heat means loss of energy. Okay. Now question is, how do you account for that loss in modeling of our transformer? So we are trying to model the transformer. How do you account for that loss? So it is in magnetic. The loss is because of the magnetic properties. But in the electric circuit, how do you show that as a loss? What? So some kind of resistance we'll have to put. Okay. So we'll put that resistance. Sometime we'll do that. See, in this case, if you measure the power flow, okay, if you put a wattmeter here and measure how much input power, wattmeter, how much input power you will get it? For the ideal case, VI cos phi. Okay, cos phi means cos of 90, which is 0. The purely reactive power is going. Active power is not going. So wattmeter measures only active power. So there is no active power going. Okay, so it's not there. Okay. So when there will be some watts, as long as the angle is less than 90 degrees, then there will be some this thing. Okay. So under that conditions, consider this as I0. Okay. What is I0? I0 is a current which is flowing under no load conditions, considering that there are some core losses are there. Okay, so in that case, I0 would be something like this. Okay, this angle may be, of course, here it is like almost 70 degrees, but maybe it is slightly less than 90 degrees. Okay, in that case, now it has two components. So this is I0, and the x component is I5, same as before, and this one is let's say I'm trying to remember the actual notation. Let's give the notation IM. Okay, so later on we'll adjust that. Okay, now so this part is actually see this is nothing but I0 into cos phi, because phi is here. Okay, the not that other phi, we'll get confused with that phi. We'll not do that. So like this. Okay. So rest all is same. Okay. So only two new vectors are added. One is this one, other is this one. Now what is input power? V1 into Im. So that much is the input power. So cos 0 is 1. So like that. So that will account for the core losses. Okay. So now I will slowly start adding some load in the secondary. Okay, I think this is the another part. Okay, so case B actually. Okay, what is case B? Transformer with core losses. Okay. So somebody mentioned, I think he mentioned we have to use resistance to represent the core loss. Okay. So how do you calculate that resistance? So you know V and I. So simply divide V by I. You will get some, but not this I. You will be measuring this I. Okay. So basically you do exactly the same thing. No load test on a transformer. Take a transformer, keep the secondary side open. In the primary side you do the no load test. Under no load conditions, how many watts it is consuming and all. Okay. We'll come to that. Now we'll discuss case C. Okay. And case C will be under load. Okay. So maybe I require a bigger diagram. So here I am connecting a load. Okay. So under no load condition, the flux was phi. Okay. Now so what is this current? This current is I0. Okay. Now immediately after connecting the load, there was some E2 EMF. So because of that E2 and because of the impedance of the load, there will be some current. Okay. For simplicity's sake, resistance load you take. Okay. If you consider resistance load, then there will be current that nothing but E2 divided by the resistance value, you get some current. That current, let us call it as I2. Okay. Now because of this current I2, there will be some flux in the core because this current is flowing in this, so there will be some flux. Okay, because of I0, this flux is coming. Because of I2, some more flux will come. Okay? The question is, will that flux be in the same direction of this or opposite direction? What is the direction of that flux? Will it be in the same direction of this or in the opposite direction? It will be actually in the opposite direction. So I have not drawn the diagram and all properly, but you will understand immediately why it is opposite direction once we continue the discussion. Because of this current I2, the flux will be opposite direction. Okay, so I will draw that like this. See, basically these are alternating fluxes, so they keep changing direction every time. But then I am taking at one point, if this is at a particular instant, if this is the direction, this will be opposite direction. Okay, so like this. So two fluxes in the opposite direction. As a result, what happens? The net flux will be less. Okay, if the flux is less, in that case, see, there was a V1 here, and there was a E1 here. Okay, and V1 and E1 were kind of opposing each other, casting it out. But the very reason for what is E1 is that because of the E1 was generating because of the flux. Okay, but that flux itself is now reduced. Okay, so E1 should reduce, isn't it? Why was E1 there originally? E1 was there originally because of this flux. But because of the connection of load, I2 is there. Because of I2, the phi2 is coming. I'll call it phi2. And because of phi2, this flux is reducing. So therefore, E1 should also reduce. Okay. Yeah. What is related to rate of change of flux? Okay, so even that is a, see, I am discussing in terms of steady state sinusoidal kind of condition. Okay, that rate of change of flux is already there. See, this is continuously changing. This is also continuously changing. So what I am saying is they are opposing each other. The changing. It is like, see, this is phi. Okay, and this is phi2. Okay, so like this, both are changing. Okay? So, but then they are opposing also. That way. So if this is phi. See, the powerless part we already discussed. So it is just powerless part is these two. Only these two are added. Okay. Even you don't worry about that. You can call this one as I phi, and then you can continue discussion. Otherwise, let me explain through this diagram also. See, E2, I said E2 is getting induced in the secondary. Okay, because of resistance, some current will be there. Okay, so that current, let's put like this, I2. I2 will be in phase with E2. Now, because of I2, there will be phi2. Okay, so then phi2 will be phi2 will be here, and then E2 will be somewhere. So basically what I wanted to tell was, actually I was, you don't have to worry that E1 is continuously or totally reducing. See, there is a flux phi2, okay, which will that flux phi 2 also links with the first coil, also induces another EMF here, okay, which will reduce E1, and as a result, more current will be sent here, okay? Because E1 is opposing this one, so that's why no load current I0 will be quite less. But because of this other EMF induced, more current will start coming. Okay? So here I'll write plus I1. Okay? So the moment there is a load connected, more flux will come. Momentarily the core flux will reduce. Momentarily the EMF will reduce. Then because of the voltage difference, more current starts flowing, and because of that new current I1, there will be another flux phi 1. Okay, so I'll write like this. So that new flux will be in the same direction as the original flux, and these two will cancel each other. Okay? So this will cancel with this one. Okay? So and then finally only remains is that no load flux. Okay? So but the currents are still there. Okay? So that's why you should not get confused. So the currents, see I2 current is there, I1 current is still there. Okay? So basically the good thing about the transformer is whether the load is no load or load is 10%, load is 20% or load is 90%, whatever is the level of loading, okay, the flux will remain constant in the core. Okay? The way it adjusts is whenever there is a secondary side current is increasing, momentarily the flux will reduce and momentarily it will send more current, and then again it reaches the stable state like that. Okay? Yes. Yeah. So once the I1 starts flowing, then again you can say V1 will be equal to E1. So this is just a see, it is just a matter of notation. So they could be opposite direction. Just see, if it is completely opposite, that means just a matter of notation. That's all. Like if the angle is, it's a sign problem. Even that was also a very big doubt for me. See, V1 equal to E1, but they are opposing each other. So what is the meaning? So their magnitude is same, but they are opposite each other. In the vector diagram, they will come like this. V1 and E1 are equal, and they are opposing each other. That means, in the vector diagram, you will show like this. So it will be like this. This is V1 and this is E1. So V1 plus E1 will be 0. Okay. No, I1 current will also be there. There will be also I1 current. Okay, I will slowly clear that out also. So the I1 current will be also here. So I'll draw the I1 current somewhere like this. Okay. So now, so what we do is, see, when in the textbooks and all, when you draw the phasor diagram, so putting E1, I2, all these things here, it will make the diagram more clumsy. Okay. So what they do is, these E1 and I1, here I1 and E1 I showed as in phase. Okay. So what is the actual I1? This one plus I0. Okay. So these two, that means you have to take the vector addition of these two. So to you can actually draw in one more way, like just assume that it's a matter of notation that E1 I will show on the other side. Okay, so in that case what happens is, you will be getting, let me, this is V1. Now I'll take the same as nothing but this itself is E1. Okay, so just I did it just for keeping the diagram more clear. Okay, then this is E2. So actually E1, E2 should be in phase. So you can always change the what you call. I can use this kind of dot convention. Then you can always argue E1, E2 are opposing. Okay. Just for representing here, I can do like that. Then everything is again same. So this is, let's call this I5. Let's not worry about that core loss right now. So in this case, this is I2. So I1 will be like this. Okay, and that's all we have. So this is the flux. Okay. So the flux will remain same, and these two currents. Now the interesting thing will be if N1 is to N2 is 2 is to 1, okay, then I should be more accurate. Half the length of E1 should be E2. Okay, so E2. So this is E1, E2 will be lesser. Okay, and I2, let's say if this is I2, half the length of I2 should be I1. Because input power should be equal to output power. Okay. How to make input power equal to output power? You should make E1 I1 equal to E2 I2. So if E1 is becoming half, then the I2 should become double. Then the product is maintained. Okay. So that way. So that part we should take care. So anyway, the main point I wanted to make was, whatever the load you connect, the flux that it creates will induce some EMF in the primary side, and that drop will result in more current flowing into the primary, and that more current will result in another flux which will cancel whatever is the flux, and then the net flux will go back to its no load flux, but the currents will still remain maintained like that. Okay, so I think we have half an hour more time. So what I'll do is I'll complete this since we are going in this flow. I'll complete this with more assumptions, more these things, and then we'll try to solve one problem also in the end. Okay. Okay. So this was case C. Okay. What is case C? Transformer with load. Okay. Resistance load. So we can talk about inductance load and capacitance load also. That we'll do later. I want to talk about I want to talk about resistance drop in these coils. I think for that so what if there is a, ideal case I did not consider any resistance, but what if there is a resistance in this? Okay, see, okay, this place is there, I'll write it. Core loss, copper loss. Okay, so these are the two, this thing. Core loss means what I explained earlier, because of the magnetic material, flux changing direction and all this thing, there is this loss which is coming, that is core. Copper loss is because of the copper current flowing in the wire, because of the resistance I square into R. Okay. So core loss we have considered now we'll consider the copper loss. Okay, what about the resistance in this and resistance in this? Okay. So how do you account for that? So you can apply simply, see this is V1, this is resistance and this is E1. So E1 is coming here, induced EMF. Okay. So just Ohm's law. So I1 into, so the drop here added to whatever voltage is there, if that in that you subtract this drop, whatever remains, that is E1. So I think the diagram will be more neat if we consider slightly inductive load. Okay, I think we'll do that first. Case D, inductive load on secondary. Okay, so what is the phasor diagram? So this is V1, this is flux, and then I flux. What else? This is E2, and as I just explained sometime back, E1 you consider the other side to keep the diagram neater. Okay. Now the load is RL. Okay, slight some amount of resistance, some amount of inductance is there. Okay. In that case, your I2 will be like this. I2 will be lagging E2. Okay. So this is the phi 2, the power factor of the secondary side. Okay. So if the I2 is lagging E2, then the exactly opposite current will be coming in the other side. Okay. So it's called actually I2 dash. So this is actually small current, I5. So this is exactly 180 degrees the opposite side with the same turns ratio. Okay. And this is I5. So the addition of these two, so this will be your I1. Okay. So if you still want to keep track, you can also consider that small current IM, and then for representing the core losses, even that you can add it. But for the time being, we'll keep it like this. Okay. So this is I1. So the angle between E1 and I1, this is the phi 1. Okay. So this is the primary side power factor angle. This is the secondary side power factor angle. Okay. So if you see the primary side, the power factor is poorer compared to the secondary side, because the primary side you are also worried about the in between there are these windings and all these things. Okay. There is some inductance here. So why I did like this is, now it is easy, it will be easier to show resistance of this. Okay. So case E now. Here considering resistance, winding resistance. Okay. So if there is a small resistance here, actually the resistance is throughout this winding, but mathematically I just put it at the starting. Okay. Some resistance. Similar some resistance here. Okay. So how will you account for that. Okay. So here we'll introduce this one V2. Okay. V2 is the terminal voltage, E2 is the internal induced voltage. Just like V1 is the terminal voltage at the terminals and E1. Okay. So this I2 is flowing in R2. Okay. So I2 R2 voltage drop will be there. Okay. That voltage drop you subtract from E2, then you will get V2. Okay. So where is V2 in this diagram? See, this is I2. So let's say I2 R2 drop will be in phase with this. Okay. That one you have to subtract. So let's say you subtract it like this. See, these two lines are parallel, but I2 is this way, the voltage drop is this way, I2 into R2. Okay. Then this is V2. So basically transformers is nothing but application of vector diagrams that you learned last this one. So you understood, this is a straight line. So E2 is exactly straight. Okay. So I2 R2 is the drop. Okay, which is actually here like this. But that drop I want to subtract from E2. So how to subtract from E2? Reverse the direction and then attach it to the end. It's just a vector addition, vector subtraction. Okay. Then you will get V2 like this. So that is about this one. Okay. Now what is happening with I1? I1, the total this I2. So I2 dash is nothing but I1. Okay. So the total I1 is having its own voltage drop. That is I1 R1. Okay. So this I1 R1 should be added to this drop should be added to E1, then you will get the terminal voltage V1. Okay. So here you subtracted because whatever is induced, some is dropped, remaining is coming out. Here whatever you apply at the terminals, something is dropped, remaining is induced like that. Okay. So how to add this to this one? So simply here you can add like this in the same direction of this one. So is that okay? Yeah. So I1 R1. Okay. Then the addition, after all that, the addition you will get total as V1 like this. Yeah. So E1 is going to reduce and all these things. But then after all the things, again you slightly turn it so that E1 is now vertical. Because we want E1, E2 to be vertical so that it. So I reduced E1 only by doing this. See, because here you keep V1 fixed. Okay. But the problem is I can't move, I can't rotate. See, I can rotate one V1, I rotate, everything else is happy. But if I rotate E1, then everything have to rotate. See, should I rotate only V1 or if I keep V1 fixed, all the vectors have to slightly rotate. See, if I move E1, then E2 will move, then everything will move. So instead of moving everything, I am just moving V1, keeping E1 there. Okay. So these are all tricks. So finally, you got what is happening here. Yeah. So it's actually that way. It is kind of fun. So now we are assuming that all the flux here links with the other coil. All the flux here links with this coil because the core is very strong and then very tightly winding is very tightly wound and all these things. So there might be some leakage flux, some flux which is only linking with first coil. Okay? That means what? This flux does not induce any EMF on the other side. So like that. Okay? It has only the self-inductance kind of effect. Okay? So to model that one, we put another inductor here. Okay. So another inductor here to model the leakage flux in the secondary. Okay. So therefore, to taking into account imperfect coupling of two coils, I take the inductance like this. Okay. So then what happens? Okay. Then there will be a drop here and all these things. So let me once again draw the diagram here. Okay. So now I am talking about case F, considering winding resistance and leakage reactance. I think this is the last case. This is the last case. Of course, there will be more variations in the last case, but this is E1, E2, and this is flux. That V1, V2 will do it in the end. Okay. So now you see, question is what is the power factor of the load? Load is lagging load. Okay. Lagging load, therefore I2 will be like this. Lagging this one. Okay. So what will be the voltage drops here? One voltage drop will be, we have done, sometime back we have done that. Parallel to this line, I'll have some voltage drop like this. Okay. Or let's put it here itself. I put it in this one. See this drop, I2 into R2. Okay, so this I2 into R2 is this drop. What is I2 into X2? That also has some voltage drop. Okay. Will that voltage drop will be leading or lagging? So will that voltage drop will be like this or like this? So okay, just to verify that, consider the simple circuit. So this is VR, this is VL, and then this is I, and this is V supply. Okay. So this is a simple circuit. So this is R and this is X. Okay. So how will you draw the drops here? See, this is J omega, this is Jx, right? So if you take I as a reference, then I into R will be like this, VR. Now when you multiply this, it multiplies with J. Okay. So the voltage will be 90 degrees ahead. This will be VL. VR plus VL will be Vs. Therefore, I is lagging Vs. So I should be lagging Vs, right? So the drop in the voltage will be leading the current by 90 degrees. Okay. So what is leading the current by 90 degrees? Leading means that side. Okay, so this side, like this. So this will be I2, X2. Yeah, leading is opposite, correct. Leading is this side. So this is I2, X2. Okay. Now, but the problem is these two voltage drops, I have to add to V2 to get E2, or I have to subtract from E2. Okay. How do you subtract these two from E2? Reverse of this you put here, so it will be like this. Reverse of this one, and then the reverse of this you put here, so it will be somewhat like this. Okay, and then finally this will be your V2. Okay, so V2, E2, and then these two are drops. Okay. So this is I2 X2, this is I2 R2. Okay, so I'll remove that from here. Now because of this now you know everything. Because of this I2, I'll get I2 dash, and I2 dash and I0 will together become I1. Okay. Now to E1 I will add I1 R1. To that I will add I1 X1. Okay, is that okay? To E1 I am adding I1 R1, which is parallel to this, and 90 degrees leading that will be I1 X1. Okay, then this total will be V1. Okay, so this is the vector diagram for a transformer on lagging load, considering both resistances of these two and all. Okay. So if you look at this angle, this one is the angle between terminal voltage V1 and I1 will be phi 1. Here the angle between V2 and I2 will be this one. Okay. So both power factors, they will be somewhat different. Okay. You can see that. So today I wanted to solve some problems, but we have discussed so many cases. So I'll let this all this theory sink into you. Maybe we'll look at one problem. Okay. Let's take a 1 minute break, and then I'll try to find a problem in the meantime. Okay. If you look at a problem, then you will be how it will be. Does anybody have any textbook related to transformers? pages. Transformer phasor diagram. Random. So anyway, to make it easier to understand, I'll just draw the diagram in a much simpler way. Equivalent circuit. Okay, so the equivalent circuit, you can think of it like this. So this is my terminals. So V1, this is R1, X1. Okay, this is the resistance of the first winding, reactance of the first winding, reactance which represents the leakage part. Okay, then I can have a parallel branch like this. Okay. Now this one I'll call it X0 and this one R0. Okay, that means no load reactance. Okay, so then I have the ideal transformer. So this one is E1. Here I'll get E1, E2. Okay. So what are the currents? So the currents are this current is what was the notation I used? I5 or something like that I used, right? Okay. See, IM is okay. So okay, IC I'm saying for core loss. Okay, this is a resistance which let's call it RC. Resistance which represents the core loss, and then the current flowing through that is that one, and then this is a under no load condition some flux will be there, so that is because of this. Okay. So this current is I0, this current is I2 dash, I0 plus I2 dash is I1 current. Okay, so V1 I1 is what is entering into the transformer. Okay. this is ideal transformer. So this is N1 is to N2. Then again I have the same thing here. So this branch is not required because it is taken care of. So this voltage is E2. This is R2, X2. This is V2, and then this is the load. Now it is easier to draw the vector diagram for this, or the phasor diagram for this. So you know that these two are related with these magnitudes, and then rest all you can find out. So this is I2. So what is the relation? E1 by E2 equal to I2 by I2 dash. Okay. So this I2 dash, how much it will be depends on that. Okay. And then E1 is opposite to E2, therefore I2 will be opposite to I2 dash in our vector diagram. Okay. So like that. What? This is parallel because it is actually independent of the amount of the. If it is in series, then the more current will flow, more losses will come. So to just make it independent of the amount of load current, it's a separate branch. So there are even further simplifications to it that we will see in the further classes. Okay. So with regards to problem, maybe I'll